November 12th, 1926.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Do you remember December 7th, 1941?
Yes,
What class did you graduate in?
class of 44.
Who was your president of the class?
Charlie Goodell,
What was he like?
Chuck was friendly. Very popular in the sports and most anything else. All of the guys in our class were very interested in joining the service. And out of our class, at least 106 members joined the armed forces. That's out of the graduating class. A number of our members of the class of 44 left school early to join the service. The things I remember about that period is that none of us could wait to get into the service, to fight for our country. And there was a lot of stuff, of course, on the radio, on newsreels, at the movies. We went to the movies a lot back then. We saw a lot of stuff on the newsreels. And we all wanted to be a part of that. We were all kids. And when I look back at the pictures of myself and my classmates, we were just boys when we went into the service. At 17, I joined the service. And it's a shame that wars are for boys. And a lot of them never came home. I enlisted in January of 44, just 2 months after my 17th birthday. Some representatives of the U.S. Navy came to the Jamestown High School, and they had tests that were given. If we passed, it was called an Eddie test. If we passed the Eddie test, we could go into the service, into the Navy, as first-class seamen rather than third-class seamen, which was obviously a jump in.
What was the Eddie test like? Was it just a written test?
Yes.
Not physical?
No.
What was your, where did you go to basic training?
Great Lakes.
And how long were you there?
Oh, I think it was 12 weeks. From Great Lakes, I went to a school in downtown Chicago on Polk Street. And that was for training and electronic technician training. From Chicago, I was transferred to California, to Goat Island, Yerba Buena Island. It's called Goat Island. It's under the Oakland Bay Bridge, adjacent to Treasure Island, and in view of Alcatraz, where I learned to be a radio operator. Graduated from that school in June of 45, and then was transferred to Tacoma, Washington, where a brand new aircraft carrier had just been built and was commissioned in July of 45.
And the name of that aircraft carrier was?
USS Bairoko, Bairoko, CVE 115, escort carrier. I can still remember the call letters.
What was that?
NKBR, Nanking Baker Roger. As a radio operator, you don't forget these things.
Principal duty as a radio operator.
Just to sit and take messages, 8-hour shifts. For the most part, all that I did was sit and take messages. In code, of course. The messages were sent in 5 letters and a space. 5 letters and a space. Nothing you could read. And then they were given to a communications officer who put them into a machine that broke them out into simple English where you could read them. And as far as the code goes, only the officers dealt with that.
You get a sense where you were on the USS Barocco, how the war was going? Did you get a sense that we're doing well or not? Did you know?
Yes, we knew. And then we were out in the Pacific, patrolling the Pacific, not too far from the west coast of our country, when the war ended.
Once you get the word as the Japanese had surrendered, then what?
Our ship went to San Diego. And in San Diego, a squadron was formed of 7 ships, 3 aircraft carriers, and 4 destroyers to go out and patrol the Pacific as the 7th Fleet was coming home. We had Liberty in Long Beach, California. And to get ashore, our ship was anchored out in the bay. To get ashore, we had to take boats. The following morning, I woke up in a hotel. Was supposed to be back at the ship at 8 o'clock because the ship was going to leave port. And I called immediately because I woke up late in the hotel. Got out to where the small boats would take us out to the aircraft carrier. And several of us were in the same position I was. We started out for the carrier, and as we neared the carrier, it was starting out to sea. And we went as fast as the small boats could go. Finally, the carrier saw us coming and lessened their speed, dropped rope ladders down the side of the ship. We climbed aboard on those rope ladders, which were very high. The flight deck on our ship, I believe, was like 40 feet above the water. We didn't go all the way up to the flight deck, but we went on the side of the ship.
I'm envisioning your greetings by your commanding officer as you're coming on.
First of all, I had to show him my ID card. I was put on report, told to report to the officer of the day, who then was going to report to the captain of the day or whatever order it was. A few days later, we were in San Diego, and I wondered about Liberty. And I contacted the officer of the day that I had reported to. He gave my name to the next highest officer, and eventually they found nothing, told me I could go ashore.
You're lucky.
Lucky, very lucky.
Well, that's a funny story. That is a funny story. Anything else, Bob, that you want to confess to now?
No, that's enough. We went from Hawaii to Saipan, and Guam, and then the Philippines, Lingayen Gulf. We were there for a short period, and then went to Hong Kong. We were the first Americans in Hong Kong on patrol at that time. We were greeted by hundreds of small vessels who came out to greet us in the harbor, in Hong Kong Harbor. And of course, we had liberty in Hong Kong.
What was that like? I mean, here you are now in a major metropolitan city in a enemy country up until now. How did they greet you, and how did you feel about that?
Well, we were greeted well. One of my first impressions was going ashore and having a lineup of what they call them, saipans, where they wanted to take you wherever you wanted to go. Took rides on those saipans around the city, sightseeing. We saw blown out buildings, bombed out buildings. We saw, strangely enough, we saw young people in Hong Kong dressed in traditional clothing, along with perhaps their fathers or older relatives who were dressed in the traditional garb, which seemed to be long, kind of like a robe. I remember that distinctly. I remember that for a pack of cigarettes you could get a lot of things in Hong Kong.
So that was the barter ability you had, you know. Currency of choice was cigarettes, wasn't it?
Yes. Headed for Okinawa. And while at sea, there was a reported typhoon, so they diverted us away from the Okinawa area, back towards Guam and Saipan. And we were aboard ship through that typhoon.
Wow. What's it like? What's the experience?
Pretty rough. Our flight deck was 40 feet above the water, and at times the ship was rolling so that flight deck was coming into high water, high waves. Being a radio operator, we were enclosed in an area, and I didn't see much of that.
Did you guys get sick?
A lot of us did.
Yeah. Any crash landings, anything that you remember?
There was just one I remember that was bad. And there was a part of the ship that went out over the water. They just pushed that plane onto that and over into the water. That was it. It crash landed. When they're not caught on those cables, they go into a barrier that's set up that they crash into. And I think that's what happened with this plane.
What about the pilot?
I don't know.
So you come back to the States here, and what does Bob Ellis do?
Well, we left ship and boarded I was in the Naval Air Station. I think it's North Island, San Diego, for just a short period of time. And then we boarded a troop train in San Diego. I went from San Diego to Lido Beach, Long Island, where I was discharged.
Then you come home?
Then we came home.
Well, you're a remarkable testament to what it is that the greatest generation was all about, Bob. And I appreciate your time today. This is terrific.
I appreciate this very much. Thank you.